Okay.
Good.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Are we there? Are we up? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the BA Zone's live pre-show. We're just making sure we're getting everything up and going here. I'm never really quite sure when we're live. So I'm assuming we're live, and we'll just chat a little bit. Tonight's show, we're going to be talking about presenting solution options and getting stakeholder decisions. It seems like finding solutions would be the hardest part of your job, but it turns out it's not always. It's part of it, but actually getting folks to make a decision is always challenging. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So welcome. We're kind of excited. Everybody's here. Hope you had a fantastic Labor Day weekend, and getting back to the grind, I'm sure is just sort of like waking everybody up at this point. But it was nice. I mean, other than weather, we talk about weather a lot on this show. You think it's a weather show. We're going to have to start calling ourselves, the Weather Girls or something. Or is that a name of a singing group? I think it might have been. Yeah, it was actually. But anyway, the weather has just been sort of horrendous. All across the country, it seems like it's raining forever. And the humidity, it's usually humid here, but it usually eases up in August, and it hasn't. So I've shut the air conditioning off so you don't hear the droning of it. So if you start to see me sweat, just make believe I'm exercising. I always do. It always works for me. And Kathleen is in the back end there doing her thing. And let's see what else is going on. Not a whole heck of a lot. Just working. Kathleen, anything going on with you? Say hello to the nice folks, because she'll be busy all evening after that.
Okay, there you go. You got a comment from Amy.
Amy, hi. How are you? Good topic today. Getting everyone on the same page. Well, it's not easy. Oh my gosh. So we've had a kind of an up and down sort of thing. My gosh, it's 8 o'clock already, Kathleen. And you're at the live pre-show, so just hang on a second. And Kathleen, are we ready to go with tonight's topic?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Alrighty, let me get you there. Okay. So tonight, presenting solution options and getting stakeholders' decisions. So pretty much this happens a lot, right? You've done all of your due diligence, and by that I mean you've reviewed and you've assessed the client's standard and non-standard sources of information, from electronic files all the way to physical artifacts. You've probably met with users and stakeholders and painstakingly mapped out their process, workflows and data flows, and their current software solution if they have one. And along the way, you've identified their pain points. You understand their needs, hopefully at this point, and not just at the user level, but within all levels of the organization, the big picture, the broader picture. And whether they're trying to improve their workflows or processes by streamlining or automation, maybe they want to get new customers, maybe they want to keep existing customers, maybe they want to increase their revenue, reduce their operating costs, whatever it is, you've got that all down at this point, or a good portion of it, at least the major big hits. You've taken all this information and created a roadmap for success in the form of process improvement, software, product, and service solutions. So now what? Now what? Before I get into the now what, I just want to let everybody know that if you're interested in this topic, or if you find this topic interesting and you want to pass it along, please do so. We love the likes, we love the hearts. So please send it out to everybody or anyone who wants to become a business analyst, or somebody who might just be interested in this topic, because this topic sort of is fairly broad. It can apply to sales, product managers, project management, pretty much everything in the business world. So, and you can find us everywhere tonight. I don't know if Kathleen wants to throw up, if she can, where that sounds awful, throw up where she can, if she wants to put up the slide really quickly. But you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, You can also go to thebazone.com, and please feel free to drop us any comments tonight. We have the comments working, so Kathleen will throw them up on the screen for us. Again, that word, throw them up, which she might be doing in the background. I really have no idea because I can't see her. But anyway, please engage. We love to engage with you. We love to get your comments, and we're ready to go. Okay, so let's continue. So you've done all your due diligence, right? So now what? How do you present your ideas and solutions? How do you get them to pay attention in the first place? And how do you get them to select the best approach for their business? Because sometimes that doesn't always agree. They have something in their mind, and you as the analyst may have a different type of solution. So, and you have to be able to do all of this without having a panic attack, which is kind of, some people have a lot of problem talking in front of people. So we'll walk you through some of those things. And this is sort of an approach. Now, there's plenty of approaches out there, right? So this is a great one to start with. It's a fundamental sort of approach. It's a 5-step approach. And you can build on it from there. You can adapt it. You can change it. But let's go through the steps. So for step 1, you obviously want to identify who your audience is, right? So who are the key decision makers in the organization? So these are the people you're going to have to convince that this is the right solution. And we have a certain way of doing that. We really don't kind of convince them. We sort of lead them to it. Who are the sort of border patrol or gatekeepers, whatever you want to call it. And these are the people you have to get through to in order to get to the key decision makers. And these are the sort of people that you need to persuade, and you need to answer their sort of needs in order to persuade them. And who are the users? And don't forget, the users might be finance, who are holding all the purse strings. So don't ever discount finance in any way. And and that's sort of to identify your audience. So that the border patrol, the gatekeepers, the people you need to persuade, and the users themselves, those are the folks that are going to help you sell your product or the solution to the key decision makers down the road. So these are ultimately all those folks that are going to pay the bills. So, you want to start at this level, and it sort of builds up this momentum until it reaches the higher. Now, they know they've hired you to do a job, but there's a certain way of going about it, and that is getting the buy-in at, I don't want to say the lower levels, but, the actual people who are doing the working and the gatekeepers. You want to get their buy-in first, because they're the ones who are going to sort of push your solutions up or promote your particular options up to the key decision makers. So that's step number 1. And and Amy says, know the room to the best of your ability. You're absolutely correct. And I love when she gives me, a fantastic segue. And that's terrific. That's exactly right. Know who your audience is, because those are the people you're going to go to initially to start to persuade, and get that buy-in. Sorry about that allergy. I'm getting a little tickle. So hopefully we can get through this without me losing my voice all of a sudden. Okay. Step number 2. You're going to want to prioritize the needs of the business. So to do that, geez, I'm so sorry. Hold on a sec. Little tickle. Okay. So to do that, you want to create, now you've already started maybe to do some requirements. You've done some elicitation. You've done some fundamental work. So you want to create a list of the business needs and the features and the functions that are needed and why. And this is at a very high level, right? So, you've had a lot of discussions by now, and you've got a lot of this information. And once you create that list, what I like to do is break it down into 3 types of solutions. I always give them 3 types of solutions to pick from. You can call it 1, 2, or 3. I like to call it the gold, silver, and bronze, sort of, along those, metals type things. So, and, we give them 3. You don't ever want to give somebody a single solution that's sort of like your opinion. I try not to do that at all. I try to give them 3 options so that people feel like they have the control of the decision that they're making. Now they can, morph a solution, but basically you're going to give them 3 different types. It could be, the gold standard could be everything from soup to nuts. It could be the most expensive, or however you want to define that, but that's sort of like the Cadillac. This is the everything you ever wanted. And then so on. The silver is a little bit less, and then the bronze is the least amount. So you want to outline the advantages and disadvantages of each of these options. And, keep the disadvantages kind of small. It's really only to lead them to one of the other solutions. So you really don't want to focus on the disadvantages too much. Sorry. And you want to add real use case stories to your narrative, right? So this is not part of your slide presentation. This is just, you want something from each option that will help a particular department or someone that you've spoken to, or a key stakeholder. So you want one of those options, within each of those 3 options, I should say, you want to have this little narrative in the back of your head that this is the potential problem that we're solving. And this helps when you're doing the narrative, the slides, to actually, someone in that audience knows you've already talked to them and you've heard them. You've actually heard them, and you're putting that small piece into one of the options. So that definitely helps them feel like you're empathetic. You've actually been listening to them. So you want to keep that little narrative. And we'll talk about that in a little minute. Keep that on cards or however you want to keep that so that you have that as part of your delivery. Step 3, planning and persuading. So, you can't over plan for a presentation. I know a lot of people like to fly fast and loose, and that's fine once you understand how to sell. And if you have or how to get people to make a decision, that's fine. And your product really well, what you're talking about, no problem whatsoever. But before that, you really need to plan out presentations. And I can tell you, when we used to go to clients and we were trying to sell our product that we would adapt for those clients, we would have 10 people in a room talking about how we were going to present this to this particular, the style of the corporation, who the audience was. So you can't overplan. Now, if you're just doing this yourself and you're providing options, you really want to plan this out, right? You want to take the time to get this right. You want to you want to proofread it, have somebody else proofread it and take a look at it and make sure everything is okay. You want to try to anticipate all the questions that someone could potentially ask you and have those answers ready. They don't have to be long answers. You don't want to, you want to keep them fairly short. And how do you do this? How do you get all these questions? Well, you start to test the waters. And you do that by actually going to some of the people individually before the meeting, if you can. If it's a client, it might be a little more difficult unless you have, a counterpart over there or a liaison. But you want to definitely get their opinion. And you don't have to show them a slide deck. I wouldn't do that at all. But you want to make sure you're on the right track, right? And not necessarily at the executive level. This would be sort of at your user gatekeeper level. But you want to make sure, this is what I'm thinking about kind of thing. How do you feel about it? Does this sort of fulfill your needs? It's just a conversation. It's nothing formal. And this is the beginning of your ability to persuade people to a certain solution or, to a certain option. You're sort of engaging with them. You're listening to them. Most of all, you're listening instead of talking. You throw one idea out there and just see what the feedback is and how it comes back. And if you can instill some of that feedback into your presentation, it's gold, because again, people know you're listening to them, right? And also in planning and persuading, always have a backup plan. And I can't tell you how many times we've gone places and the system goes down nothing works. Always have printed copies of your presentation on hand that you can pass out. And it's always helpful to pass them out at the end of a presentation. I don't like to pass them out prior to, only because everyone's focused on flipping pages and flipping ahead, and they're not really paying attention to you. But if you have to, you definitely want to, put those out. So Amy's got a comment here. I like your team lead in the legal industry deception. It really is persuading them to see, to actually visualize and envision what they actually need, right? But have that backup plan, because a lot of things can go wrong, and they will. They happen all the time. Step number 4, I call this high anxiety. Great Mel Brooks movie. Never seen it, but anxiety, like I said, a lot of people have problems speaking in front of people. Where a lot of people are introverted. A lot of people don't have the self-confidence. And look, self-confidence just comes from rehearsing, right? The more you do, the more times you do it, it's going to become rote. It's going to become, and it's even harder when it's rote, because then you have to build in excitement after doing something for so often. Now is the exciting time for you, right? Now is like, you're just learning this. This is great, So some of the ways that you'll reduce that anxiety is to rehearse. And, you can do this with people, your family, whatever, in front of a mirror. Make sure you verbalize. You're going to speed through it a lot quicker probably at home than you would in the actual meetings, because you have to anticipate there's going to be questions that you might have to answer. And this is another area where self-confidence can help. Yes, Amy, self-confidence. And self-confidence is hard for a lot of people, especially if they're, a soft-spoken type of person. But again, self-confidence will make the difference. If you have self-confidence, people will believe you, even if you're totally wrong. And I'm not kidding. I mean, people do it all the time. They have that certain air of self-confidence about them. And you can get that. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of experience. So by rehearsing, it's going to build up your confidence, right? And don't forget, you've already met these people and established relationships with most of them as you've been doing your elicitation work and your shadowing or your focus groups, right? So at least at the employee level, maybe not at the higher executive level, you've got to remember you're already prepared for most of their questions. And if you don't have those answers to a particular question, say you just have to say something like, well, I have to get back to you on that. I'll definitely write it down. And after the meeting, you find that answer and you email that person or the whole group and give them the answer that they were looking for. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to know it. Don't let it frighten you or frazzle you in any way. Just say, I'm not sure. Let me get back to you on that. Works every time. So other things that you can do is there's nothing more stressful than getting there late and having to set everything up and nothing's going right and working over. So make sure you get there earlier. Smile, relax, at least look like you're not nervous as hell, which is, I do it all the time. But inside you're kind of like shaking, right? So just try to relax your body, relax your shoulders, take a deep breath, and try to appear confident. Even if you're not, eventually you will become confident. And remember, in the back of your mind, you are really here to help these people. These people have hired you. They need you. So it's not like they're going to, and you will have people go, shh, but you deal with them one at a time. So that's a way to deal with some anxiety issues. So before Kathleen has anxiety, let me just remind you that, we get a lot of our ideas from our audiences. So please write into the BA Zone or comment. We'll be happy if you have any issues or problems, we can contact you directly. But if you have ideas for the show, let us know, and we'll definitely schedule that in. And we love to hear from you guys. This is why we do it, to make life a little easier. Okay, so step 4 was the high anxiety. So the final step, step 5, is present and be present, right? And tell a story. Tell a story where each person in that room feels like they're the main character of the story. And, thank everyone for coming. Have everybody introduce themselves if necessary. There's all these different things you can do in a meeting. Pass out your business cards. Remember to have business cards if you're at a client meeting, because a lot of times, you forget everybody's passing a card and they don't know who you are. So if you have a business card, get it. If you're a consultant, get a business card, definitely, so you can hand them out to people, because you'd be surprised. People hang on to those cards for quite a long time, and they will use them. They will come up. Explain without getting too involved. You want to get right to the subject, right? So you want to just explain the purpose of the presentation. 1 or 2 sentences, 3 at the most. You don't want to tie it up with endless. People are in that meeting. They want to get going, right? So just give them a brief explanation. So there's different ways that you can present your ideas, right? There's a different order, and order can be important in some of the ways that you present. When I tell a story, I use visuals, obviously. We like slides. We like to keep the presentation short and simple and geared toward the level of the audience, or the level of, the company, and their level of understanding of what's going on. You don't want to be too technical in a meeting that is totally an operations type driven thing, right? So another thing too is don't use a lot of extra data or a lot of information at this point to validate your solution options, right? Because that type of data will get people going off in a totally different direction, and it'll sort of skew. Everybody will be thinking of all this data and not really paying attention to you. So data can be used to support your solution options after the fact that you've presented them. Don't tie people up. Don't distract them in any way, unless it's, they're focused on it, because it could steer the conversation definitely away from your presentation. And let's see. If you were to add a lot of data, you have to be, or any data at all, you have to be really careful that that data is correct, because there's maybe somebody in that audience who may know something you don't know. It could be from sales, marketing, finance, whatever, and you definitely don't want to show data that's incorrect. So try to stay away from that when you're presenting options, if at all possible. And if you give them too much information, they'll just get lost in the weeds, right? You just lose them. They're only half listening. It's like having too many options on a menu. You just don't know what to decide. You don't know what to pick. So keep those, options limited. So when I do slides for a presentation solution, I try to stick to about, 5 slides, 7, 10 at the most, right? So for the first slide, what I'd like to do is remind them of all of their pain points and the issues. Very high level category, and then several bullets under each one. It brings people back to the reality of why you're there. These are the reasons I'm here. And this is why my solution, or these, I shouldn't say my solution, these solutions, potential solutions, can help you. In addition to fixing all those pain points and issues, slide number 2 should be, oh, and by the way, here's some additional opportunities that you may not have known about. And here you're trying to think at a higher strategic level, right? This is to get the higher folks, the executives in the meeting, interested, right? So what are they interested in? They're always interested in the bottom line and what competition is doing, right? So if you have any ability to compare what the competition may be potentially doing, or to show that type of information, that's golden here. Give them the opportunity. So they're thinking, you're not only looking at fixing what's broken, you're looking at a much higher level, a strategic level. This makes you very valuable as a business analyst, and you want to be valuable so that you can keep your job and move on and move along. So, and get better and better jobs. So definitely give them those additional opportunities if you find them. So then slide 2, I would just give them the gold option. So this is what we can do to address your issues. And by the way, give you all these extra opportunities. This is the fantastic high dose. Here you go. Everything all the bells and whistles, right? Then go on to the silver option, which is more a medium and a bronze. Now, it depends how you want to organize this, right? A lot of people say put the high shiny object in the first slide, up at the top, but keep the gold at the top. If you're driving them to the middle or to the gold, but keep that at the top, work your way down in descending order. Others say, put the lowest one at the top and lead them in to the one you want them to select. So it's up to you. It depends on how you work, what's going to work for you with the particular audience. And it can depend, it can vary. So feel free to change that up, right? And again, when you're going through each slide, again, like we said before, concentrate now on the advantages and keep the disadvantages very small for each option, right? Cite, if you can, what the competition is doing or not doing when you're talking about this, if you can, if there is a particular competitor out there. And for each option, this goes back to the planning and the persuading, right? Include something that one of the people in the group in the meeting is looking for, and include all of them in each solution so that no matter which one they picked, you're directing these particular pieces to them. It might just be some little something that somebody wants that nobody included. If it makes sense, include it. Because again, this proves that you are actually listening to them. And at the end of each of these slides, of the gold, the silver, and the bronze, after each one, after the gold, ask questions. Are there any questions? And if someone asks a question, repeat that question out loud. Because if you have, and oftentimes we have people on the phone, and it's very garbled. If you've ever been on a meeting, half the time you're catching only pieces of it. And it's very helpful to, in a clear speaking voice, repeat that question before you answer it to the entire audience. So that will help engage the audience and it makes them feel good. So you're concerned, what are your questions? Let me answer your questions. And again, you've got a lot of the answers to those questions already because you've done your research, what you think they might ask. And again, if you don't know, you don't know, and that's fine. You can get back to them. You don't want to really elaborate on the answers too much. One, because you've got to get back to the presentation. But two, again, this is something that if you give too much information could cause too much conversation to occur, right? So you want to keep everybody present and focused on what you're doing. So don't give them an excuse to go off on a tangent somewhere else by giving them too much information. But sometimes a question from the audience, like when Amy just sent in a comment, is a great segue or a transition point to your next slide. So sometimes if that works for you, use it, right? If all of a sudden somebody says something, oh yeah, sure, that leads right into my next slide. So look for those opportunities when you're talking to people and answering their questions. If you're getting a lot of questions during the meeting, answer a few and say, can you just write them down and hold them till the end of the meeting? And then we'll go over that just so you can get through your slide deck. And then at the end of your meeting, obviously go back and say, okay, are there any other questions? And we can discuss them. While you're giving your presentation, you're always looking and paying attention to body language. And if you see someone starting to become uncomfortable, don't call them out on it, but engage them in a way that makes sense, right? So towards the end of that slide, say, Bill, what do you think about that? Bill was squirming, and maybe Bill will give his opinion, right? So you're always keeping watch over the crowd to see if you're starting to lose them, if you have to change your tone. Don't be monotone. I've been in a lot of meetings and a lot of solutions where everybody's just droning on and on or reading the slide. God forbid, don't read the slides. You just want to sort of refer to them occasionally, but practice so that you don't have to read them. But pay attention to body language. And then in slide 5, which is your closing slide, it could be your closing slide, one of your options, show your options side by side for a comparison view and add any additional information, appropriate information. For example, solution or the gold standard solution one can be delivered in this time frame, or it will result in this level of revenue or user satisfaction. Just be careful when you're throwing numbers out there that you can actually achieve those numbers when you do actually implement a product. So just be careful with numbers, but you can certainly talk about, potential delivery timelines if it's going to be months or weeks or whatever. And in that closing statement with those three up there, you want to also tell them how uniquely qualified you or your company is to deliver the appropriate solutions, to deliver these three solutions. So you want to leave it up there while you're wrapping up. Leave up that slide and talk about your unique qualifications. Now, some additional slides that you could include are giving them sort of the wow factor. If you have a really good web designer like Kathleen, you can have some screen comps. If nothing's actually built, if something's built, you could do a demo and sort of a little smoke and mirror thing where you can say, and this is how we can customize it for your particular needs if you have an actual product. But if you don't, screen comps work really well if you have a really good designer. If you're selling a software product, you can throw up the comps, put up the comps on the screen. It's been going through my monologue tonight, but and make it the really cool ones, the ones that are going to engage people to say, wow, we could do that. We don't have that. We don't have anything like that. So, and, include some of the key features that are available for each of those options. You could also potentially put up a next step slide, because the whole goal of this is to sort of deliver these three solutions in a way that sort of steers them to the appropriate one you've determined will move their business forward, right? So however you can do that, and it does take a level of skill, and over time you will learn this, but it is about positioning the slides in the right place, giving them the right information, and letting them come to the decision, not so much giving your opinion. This is sort of like, this is from all of your hard work. This is what you've done. And these are the three options that we think would potentially move your business forward or address your issues, etc. So just as we're actually at 8:31. So these 5 steps, right? It's just a good start, and you will adapt as you go along. But for someone who's never done this, that's the way we would approach it. If you're, put 3 different options up there for them to select from. They feel like they have a little bit more control. And all of these presentations are really about making a connection with your audience, right? So the better the connection, the easier it is for them to accept and select a particular decision or option. Again, they can adapt it, but there's 3 things for them to pick from. It's not a menu of 55 items in a diner, right? It's 3 simple options. If none of those 3 work, fine, we'll go back to the drawing board. But I can guarantee if you've done your homework and you've really looked into this and you've consulted with your developers and your web designers, if you have them, this process works. It definitely works. So you can use this to present your sales solution. Again, feel free to change it, make it your own. It's very important that your presentation, you come off as confident and natural, right? So you definitely can do this. It is a little bit of a skill set, but I hope this helps you develop that skill set, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I've enjoyed talking about it. And again, if you have any other comments, feel free to contact it at thebazone.com. You can go there and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get all the information on the new and happening things prior to the general public. And also drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the show. Let us know if there's anything we can help you with. And I hope you have a great night, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Kathleen can take us out now.